Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Couchside Sports. It's episode number 4. As always, I am your host, Matt Parnell, joined alongside by my co-host, Lucas Fanslaw. How you doing, Lucas? Been a good week?
It's been a good week. Let's fucking go, boys. It's Stanley Cup week.
Stanley Cup week, that's right. And that's pretty much going to be the primary focus of today's episode for all you hockey fans out there. We're going to do a deep dive into the Stanley Cup final preview. But before we get to that, why don't you talk a little about Saturday? You had a little golf tournament there. I was supposed to be there Saturday. Did you have a good time?
I did. Unfortunately, you had to go to a wedding, husband and dad duties.
That's
but
right.
we stepped up big to the plate. We got a little bit too fucking pickled. had to do a shotgun that threw a couple holes off, but it was good. We finished -3 with 4 birdies and 1 bogey.
Nice. And it was a 4-man scramble?
4-man scramble, but it was a good time. We all stepped up when we needed to. The boys are making big money for that reason. We put the ball right where we want it to be.
There we go.
But yeah, all around solid round. Shout out Jack, shout out Tristan, shout out Brad. Huge performance from the boys in a big moment.
Yeah, 300. That's pretty good considering, everyone here is pretty much like a bogey golfer. So to shoot 300 in a 4-man scramble is pretty decent.
Oh, humongous play.
So that's great. Any memorable shots sticking out in your brain off the top of your head? Or
there was one shot. Tristan had a monster drive, like probably I forget what he said, but it was like 260, 270.
Nice.
50 feet away from the green.
Oh,
Greens, the hole's about 15 feet lower from where we are. On the front, there's a bunker. On the back, there's a steep hill.
okay, yeah.
Tristan and Brad went bunker. Jack went off the hill. I stepped up. This is when I was pickled from a couple shotguns and fucking just stuck it right on the back of the green, boys.
Nice.
Totally.
Did you guys convert birdie?
No.
Oh.
It was a big putt.
Tough.
It was a big putt.
Tough. That's all right.
Totally. How was your wedding? You slept in a tent on the storm.
Yeah. Wedding was good. Wife and the kids slept in a camper van on Saturday night, the night of the wedding. So after the wedding, we get back, and the wife and the kid, they sleep in a camper van, and the bed's probably 5.5 feet long. Caitlin's like, oh yeah, I have to sleep in fetal position to fit in this thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, I'm 6'3", like my wife's like 5'5", right? And I'm like, there's no way I'm sleeping in this. So I cracked open the truck tent, which probably was a bad idea, but I figured, hey, you got a memory foam mattress back there, I'll be good. And I'm sleeping maybe 30 yards from the beach, and there was a windstorm that picked up, and it was probably 70 to 90 kilometer-an-hour winds all the way through the night until, I got out of bed at 5:36. Everyone slept until about 8, but I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It was just the whole night. Maybe slept an hour. So
brutal.
That was tough. I was ready to go on Sunday, that's for sure. I had the truck all packed up by 6:30.
First ferry out of there.
Yeah, I was so tired, actually. I reached into the cooler to grab a bubbly, and I just saw 4 or 5 bubblies sitting in there, so I just reached down, grabbed one, and cracked it open, and took a swig. And I was like, what the hell is that? I looked down, I cracked a Coors Light.
Oh.
So it was one of those mornings.
Hair of the dog.
That's right. Yeah, even though I was completely sober the night before. Coors Light, not the first thing you want to have in the morning when you're sober.
No, totally.
Definitely not.
That's like sipping out of the spit cup at a party or something.
It was pretty rough, but yeah, we powered through it and finally got to the bubbly an hour later.
Nice. Well, moral of the story, we're so excited for the cup that we both survived our adventures this weekend.
That's right. Yes.
Let's fucking go, boys.
Here we go. So, yeah, we're going to do a big show today. We're going to just stick with the Stanley Cup today. Obviously, first game on Wednesday. That's June 5th. We're recording this on Monday night, June the 2nd. It'll be live on Spotify and YouTube. Hit the subscribe on YouTube and hit us a follow on Spotify if you haven't. Much appreciated. Always helps grow the show here. But yeah, first game will be obviously tomorrow night, essentially, when this goes live. So it's the eve of the Stanley Cup final, and it's a rematch of last season. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers beat the Dallas Stars in 5 games, and the Florida Panthers dispatched the Hurricanes in also 5 games. What were your thoughts on the conference finals all in all? Any surprises for you? I know you were kind of a big Dallas wagon early on.
I was.
After they beat Colorado, I mean, I was kind of on that train as well. What are your thoughts?
Thoughts to close out the series? Skinner really stepped it up. Didn't he end it with 2 shutouts?
He did, yeah. He's, and we'll talk about him in a bit, but he's playing really good right now, which is a bit of a surprise, but maybe also not a surprise. He showed last year in the playoffs he was a bit of a streaky goaltender as well.
Yeah.
And then when they got to the finals, he kind of, went tits up. So we'll see how that progresses, but he played really well against Dallas. He, the first game, I think he gave up 5 goals. Didn't look good, but then the next 4 games he only let up 5, in those 4 games in total. So obviously a big step up for him, but it's the other side of the ice in the crease that's going to be the big storyline for me, Sergei Bobrovsky, who's possibly, if the Panthers win the Cup, my favorite to win the Conn Smythe right now, the MVP of the playoffs.
Big takeaway from that series, Carolina broke the curse.
They did. They won 1 game.
They did.
That's terrible. That's still not good enough. I mean, hey, good
it's
for
not
them.
good enough, but the curse is broken.
The curse is broken. And I wonder, too, with Carolina, my big question mark for them is how long of a leash does Rob Brendamore have? I mean, obviously he's gotten them to 2 conference finals in the past 3 years. He's a great coach. He's won how many division titles, yada, yada, yada. But they just cannot seem to get over the hump. And I almost feel like it is a bit of a product of the division that they play in. They probably play in the weakest division in the league. I mean, you can maybe argue the Pacific is weaker. I don't think so with the likes of Edmonton, Vegas, LA in there. You got Vancouver, Calgary, Vancouver, Calgary, borderline playoff teams. The Hurricanes, they win the division every year. Their first round matchup was fairly easy with the Devils. Their second round matchup, again, not that hard. And then, they finally play some good competition in the conference finals and they get absolutely demolished. So,
does he have a hot seat?
I don't think he has a hot seat yet, but I think if you go another year and they don't at least if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals next year and come a bit closer to the Stanley Cup Final, I think that's when you could maybe start asking some questions.
Gotcha.
It's kind of tough because you never want to let a coach go who has obviously been so successful, but they want to win a Stanley Cup. You're not getting anything for finishing 4th in the playoffs, right? So I don't know. Well, we can talk about that more in the off season, but let's dive into this Stanley Cup preview here. I'm excited for this one. How about you?
Oh, totally.
It's not
crazy we got last year's matchup.
It's not
that's
often.
a juicy storyline.
Yeah, so it's not often you get the rematches. It's actually only happened 4 times in the last 50 years almost, since 1967, 1968.
Wow.
So Detroit Red Wings, Pittsburgh Penguins, 2008 and 2009. Detroit won it in 2008. Pittsburgh won it in 2009. And then you had the Islanders and the Oilers. That was in 1983. Islanders with the sweep. And then Edmonton won it the next year in 5 games. And then you got the Montreal Canadiens and the Bruins in 1977. And also the Canadiens and the Blues in 68 and 69. So it doesn't happen too often.
No.
We're going to see it here. I'm interested to see if the Oilers can flip the script this season. I think their depth is a lot better this year than it was last year, and they've proven that through the first 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
They also got guys stepping up. Like you got it in your notes. Hopkins.
Yeah, Nugent Hopkins. He's been the biggest surprise for me, at least.
Yeah.
Last year he was quite good. This season, not very good in the regular season. I think he had 49 points in 78 games or something like that. I have it here somewhere in my notes. Yeah, 49 in 78 games. So he was a little bit low on the production this season. But in the playoffs, he's got 18 points in 16 games, and he's 3rd on the team in scoring, only behind Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. He's only 4 points away from his career high in playoff points, which he set last year with 22.
Damn.
I would expect him to get 4 points in this series
if
it's going to go 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid, not really much to talk about. I mean, he was a stud against Dallas, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. He had 2 game winners. I mean, he's a beast. The Panthers are going to really have to focus on kind of closing him out and kind of taking the space away from McDavid.
Totally. Another like we were talking about earlier, another big question mark will be Skinner. He's He's riding hot right now, but wasn't he? When they got to the Stars, he was riding hot, and then he just went out there and laid an egg.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was the question: was like, oh, are they going to go back to Pickard after Game 1? But they stuck with Skinner. Yeah. Obviously, it was the right move.
Mm-hmm.
He had those back-to-back shutouts against Vegas to end that series. And then went into, you said, the Dallas series, lost the first one. After that, he put up 4 great games. He finished the conference finals with a 2.01 goals against average and a 9.24 save percentage, and that includes that Game 1 where he gave up 5 goals. So
really,
obviously, he came back and put a statement out there saying it's his job. I don't see Calvin Pickard coming back in the playoffs now at this point. I think you have to ride Skinner. He won you that series in Dallas. I mean, maybe McDavid helps, obviously, in Draisaitl, but he played really well. I think they're going to give him a bit of a longer leash here in the finals. If they go down 0-3, maybe they throw Pickard in if Stuart Skinner hasn't been playing good.
Yeah.
But I think it's Skinner's net, basically, for the rest of the playoffs now.
Well, plus how much does it fuck with the mentals of you made it to the Stanley Cup final almost on your back
and then
you get yanked? Yeah. Like that's got to fuck with the mentals some type of way.
Yeah, I can't see it happening. Like I think Knobloch has given him the net back, and I think if they were going to give Pickard another go, it would have been in Game 2 against Dallas after him giving up 5 goals in Game 1. So the fact that he didn't do that kind of leads me to believe that they're going to stick with Stuart Skinner the rest of the way, which they probably should.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be their number 1 goalie. He's still pretty young. Calvin Pickard's getting up there a bit. I mean, he's not overly old, but, you got Stuart Skinner locked up. He could be the goalie of the future for the Oilers, right? If he can stabilize and if he can win a cup, that's going to do so much for his, mental game.
Yeah.
And that confidence is huge. As I played goalie myself in ice hockey, and I'm telling you, man, it's between the ears. I mean, obviously, even at a pro level, it's even more so between the ears because they all have the positioning down. They understand the position. Everyone watches film now so much. Like, they know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
It really comes down to, do you have the confidence to let a bad goal in and bounce back? And that's what we saw last season with Stuart Skinner. He let a bad goal in, and then it would just snowball and compound. And then it was, okay, now we're going back to Calvin Pickard.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought we were going to see after he got yanked in the
first game.
Vegas series.
Oh,
it was
way
back
then.
It was the Vegas series. He I can't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up not playing 2 games. And then Pickard got injured. Might have been against LA, actually, and Pickard got injured at the end of the LA series, and then I think Skinner came in, something like that. And then since then, it's been his net. So we'll see. I think he's a big, a question mark for me going into the finals, even though he has been playing so well. I think Florida poses many different issues that the Oilers haven't seen yet. They're definitely the best team in the East. They've shown that they've been the best team in the East, and I don't think the Oilers have played a team like them, the way they produce offense. I saw a graph earlier, and it showed the goals for in the playoffs for the Panthers. They've scored 66 goals in the playoffs so far, and 42 of them came inside the hash marks, from the hash marks down, inside the circles, and in the crease, all the way down to the goal line. So you're talking 2/3 of their goals are coming right in front of the goaltender.
Yeah.
I don't think Dallas really was that effective doing that. I think Vegas tried to do that a bit. They weren't that effective. The most success we saw from a team doing that was LA. And I feel like LA and Florida are actually kind of similar in how they play. Florida's just better.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Who do you think's going to be a big contributor for the Oilers here moving forward? Besides, obviously, Skinner, McDavid, Draisaitl. Do you have any dark horses you're looking at?
I'm thinking one of their midseason pickups, Wallman.
Yeah,
they're really going to need him this playoff series.
They are,
and especially to defend the crease with exactly what you're just talking about. All of their goals are coming even closer than the hash marks.
Yeah,
you gotta have guys to protect that kitchen.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
And you can't be letting Marchand and these guys run around and throwing elbows and stuff. And
No, totally. Last or a couple episodes, we were talking about Toronto's defensive core and them just being a bunch of big boys.
yeah.
Edmonton's really going to need their big guys this series.
Well, they got Ekholm back, which is huge.
Did they?
Yeah, they got him back in Game 5 against Dallas. He played one game, had an assist. He was a +1, looked pretty good out there.
Nice.
So he slotted right back in.
And he's got a week's rest to get back up on the conditioning, get ready for battle.
Yeah, that's going to be huge for them. So you're probably going to see Ekholm play with Bouchard, and then I would assume Darnell Nurse and I think Brett Kulak is the other guy on that line, or you'll see Wallman in there. And then your third pair or whatever, it's Kulak and whoever, or it's Wallman and whoever. But that's going to be massive for them.
Yeah.
And the fun part I think about this series that I've seen a little bit of talk about online, but not a ton, is Corey Perry versus Brad Marchand.
Really?
The two rats.
Yeah, the two guys in front of the net.
Yeah, so we'll see. And Corey Perry, I think he's 40 now. He's got 7 goals in the playoffs.
Oh.
So he's aging like a fine wine, which is a huge surprise.
Well, in a lot of their series, you'd see the goal highlights. Like fucking a third of the time, he's right in front of the goalie.
Yeah.
Just parks his big ass right there.
Just causing a problem.
Oh, totally. He either can't see or he's grabbing a rebound.
Yeah. I think that'll be harder for him to do in this series. Florida's back end is really good. And then you also have Ekblad back there, who's in his last year of his deal. He's going to want to go out there and prove something because he wants a contract. I don't think he'll stay in Florida. He might resign, but I highly doubt it. And he's been mean in the playoffs, man. There was a couple of elbows we saw him throw, one against the Hurricanes and one against Toronto that comes to mind, and neither of them got called on a penalty. So we'll see how the Oilers do with that. But the thing with the Oilers is they don't really rely on that. They're kind of the polar opposite of Florida. They don't rely on that crash the crease, get a garbage goal. They really try and beat you with skill, obviously. You got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, you got Evan Bouchard, you got all these guys, and then you have Evander Kane and you got Corey Perry who like to go in front of the net, who like to get to that dirty area, and they can capitalize on a rebound that's made here and there. But really, it's kind of a tale of two different stories here. You got the Oilers who like to beat you with finesse, and you got the Panthers who just want to pummel you into the ground until you can't play anymore and then walk away with the Stanley Cup.
How much does heart matter in the series in the sense the Panthers got their cup and the Oilers would do anything to get their cup? You know what I mean?
I've seen a bit of that. I've seen a bit of people saying like, oh, the Oilers want it more, the Oilers want it more. And I don't think the Florida Panthers are built around the type of players that have a mindset of like, oh, I've already won one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These guys, you've seen it from the first 3 series that they've played in. They are driven to win another.
Yeah.
And there's not many teams that have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And they've been in now 3 Stanley Cup finals in a row. So I don't think that that's going to play a huge factor. I think maybe you would give the Oilers a slight edge because I think McDavid is probably extra motivated.
Yeah.
But my whole curiosity with McDavid is how is he going to play against this physical team that the Panthers are?
Yeah.
He's not one to shy away from things, but you get hit enough, you're just going to start like subconsciously kind of shying away from the dirty areas, or maybe instead of like going in for a puck hard, you're kind of slowing up and trying to reach for a puck, or you know what I mean. And you can't have that. And I'm not saying McDavid's that type of player, but that being said, you get hit enough and you kind of just like mentally like that just changes in you. Can you avoid that with McDavid? That's going to be a key to watch. I think Florida's going to come out tomorrow and they're going to be foot on the gas. I expect Florida to win tomorrow night, actually. Now we'll get to it in a bit, but I have predicted the Panthers to win. I'm sticking with my pick. The Panthers. I've been the Panthers the whole way on the East since the Tampa Bay fiasco. Obviously, I had Tampa Bay in the first round, but that was a botched job.
Hey, we'll forget about that pick.
That's right. Well,
I don't think we released that episode, so
No,
you're
you're
safe
right,
for
yeah.
that pick.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there we go. I just outed myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how much that plays out. But I don't think that that's going to really I don't think that's going to affect the Panthers at all. I think they're built around players that have the mindset of this is a new season. We want to win another. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
No.
So, moving on, we can talk a little bit more about the Oilers here. I got some special team notes, which are kind of interesting.
Okay, let's hear them.
So the Oilers' power play in the Western Conference Final, unbelievable. 6 for 16, 37.5%. Ridiculous. Ooh. Not really much of a surprise. It's been touted as the best power play ever. At least it was last season.
Who's on power play 1? McDavid, Dry, and...
You got McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Evan Bouchard, and then they put Ekholm there sometimes, but I think it's more, let's look it up real quick. It might be someone like Evander Kane or Corey Perry in front of the net sort of thing, with the other guys kind of playing the perimeter.
Gotcha.
And then you got him kind of in front of the net collecting those pucks off the end boards.
Yeah.
I would probably say it's going to be Evander Kane, but let's just scroll down and have a gander.
No, either way, that's a deadly unit.
So it's Corey Perry. It's Corey Perry working that bumper spot there in front of the net. Nuge is center. You got McDavid at the point with Bouchard, and then Draisaitl's playing the right wall, which he loves to do.
Yeah.
The second unit is Adam Henrique, Evander Kane, Jake Wallman, John Klingberg, and Victor Arvidsson. So obviously it drops off a lot. On paper, I guess you would say it drops off, but their power play has been good. And honestly, one stat that I saw that was quite interesting is the Oilers have 19 different players on the roster that have scored a goal this playoffs.
Really?
Which is ranked, I think, third all-time. Or second all-time. I think the only team that had more players with, more different players with goals in the playoffs was the 1987 Philadelphia Flyers. Something like that.
The whole team's stepping up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they didn't get last year.
There's only 3 players that haven't scored a goal. I think it's been Jake Wallman, Matthias Ekholm, who's only played 1 game.
Yeah.
And someone else. It might have been Jeff Skinner, but I think Jeff Skinner has a goal. He's only played 2 games, but I think he has a goal or a goal and an assist. But anyways, their depth has been unbelievable. It's been off the charts good.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a key in this series, is their depth has got to continue to be a driving force for them. They cannot rely on McDavid and Draisaitl, especially Draisaitl last year in the playoffs, had a pretty good playoffs. In the finals in 7 games, he had 3 assists. That's it.
Ooh.
So he was nowhere to be found against the Panthers.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a better series this go around as well if they want to win this one.
Totally. He's got to lock in.
Exactly.
And especially when you're talking about depth, even the Panthers, obviously, you look at them, like on that third line, they got Lundell, Marchand, and I forget the other guy, but Lundell and Marchand alone, like,
yeah,
that's a pretty fucking nasty third line.
Luosterainen, Luosterainen's really good as well. People have kind of compared him to an Alexander Barkov light, which is insane that you got 2 players like that on the same freaking team.
Yeah, totally. Spreading them along the lines.
And then Brad Marchand on the right side, Anton Lundell in the middle. And even their defensive pairs, like, you don't have any, like, I feel like they get I feel like the Panthers defense kind of gets slept on because they don't have like that big name. They don't have that Quinn Hughes, so to speak. So their first pair is Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. Forsling is phenomenal. I'd say he's a top 10 defenseman in the league. Offensively as well as defensively. You got Aaron Ekblad on the right side, a mean, big, physical defenseman who's pretty darn good in his own end. And prior to him blowing out his knee, was able to chip in offensively from time to time. Second pair is Nico Mikkola, who nobody talks about ever. Also a really good defenseman, maybe one of the best second pairing defensemen in the league. And then Seth Jones, the pickup that they made at the trade deadline, who's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then their third pair is Nate Schmidt and Dmitry Kulikov. I mean, that could be a second pair on most teams in the NHL. So, like, their defense is stacked. And then you throw Sergei Bobrovsky in net behind them, and it's like they're unbelievable.
Is the trend with that defense a bunch of big guys?
Yeah, it is, but they've got some skill back there. Like, I'd say Forsling, Seth Jones, Nate Schmidt, all 3 of those guys are like strictly, I wouldn't say strictly, but are more so leaning towards a skill type defenseman.
Gotcha.
But then they still have the big hitters.
Yeah.
You know, the Ekblads, the Kulikovs.
So literally a perfectly balanced defense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Florida's lineup, and they're so deep. Like, those top three lines, in my opinion, are better than the top three lines that the Oilers have.
Yeah.
The big question is, for me, is going to be, how does the Oilers' depth play? And what I was going to mention, actually, we'll go back to this year, is the special teams. So the Oilers' power play was fantastic, no surprise. Biggest concern for me is the penalty kill. Their penalty kill has been really bad. It was only 64.5%.
Ouch.
Against the Stars.
That's brutal.
They gave up 5 goals on 14 opportunities. So that's going to be a big question.
And Florida's been sick as fuck on the power play.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they haven't been sick as fuck, but they've been above average.
Gotcha.
How you want to look at special teams in the NHL is you want to have your power play and your penalty kill add up to 100%.
Okay.
And if it's more than 100%, you're doing pretty good. So the penalty kill for Florida, I had it here, I believe. It's the best penalty kill in the playoffs, sitting at 88%.
Ooh. So
they're killing penalties. They're only letting in basically 1 every 10 opportunities.
And 23% on the
23% on the power play.
So they're at a
well
buck
above
10.
They're well above 100. Whereas if you look at Edmonton, yes, they got the 37.5% on the power play, and 64.5% on the penalty kill gives them 100%. But that penalty kill has to be better.
Yeah.
You cannot be giving up 4 goals every 10 opportunities.
Yeah.
That's going to be the difference between 4 games right there, right? You know? So, I mean, that's a goal every game basically, or a goal every other game-ish that they're going to give up on the power play in this series depending on how many games it goes.
And they've been taking a decent amount of penalties too.
Yeah, I mean
and a bunch of them have been avoidable.
Yeah, they took 14 in round 3, so that's almost 3 a game.
Yeah.
So it's not looking so good for them on the penalty kill. They got to get that figured out. They're essentially giving up again a goal in every game. In the Western Conference Final, they gave up a power play goal every game statistically speaking. Even of course they had a shutout in there, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, that's going to be, for me, the biggest question for the Oilers is going to be their depth. Can it stay hot? Can it keep rolling? 19 different goal scorers. That's phenomenal. And it's going to be the penalty kill and Stuart Skinner. Those are my 3 keys for the Oilers. And if they can get, I think, 2 of those 3 things right, I think they can win a Stanley Cup and bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada for the first time since 1993.
You think so?
I mean, I haven't picked them to win it.
Yeah.
But I think there is a path.
More if they can put it all together.
There is a path for them to win it this season. I like them more this season than I did last.
Really?
Last season, I didn't really give them much of a chance. The Canucks pushed them to 7 games. The Canucks were a good team last year, but, the Oilers, they had some glaring depth issues, and they had some issues in net. And I think that, along with the depth problem that they had last season in the playoffs, this year it's a different story. Depth seems to be better. Their goaltending seems to be better right now, but that's kind of, we'll wait to judge that one after a few games, because again, Stuart Skinner can seem to be the kind of guy that can go lights out 3 or 4 games in a row, and then all of a sudden he just lays 3 eggs in a row.
Yeah.
So if he has the ability to bounce back in this series, because there's going to be a game where they lose 6-2 or 6-3. He needs to be able to just get that game out of his mind and move on like he did in the Dallas series.
And the defense needs to help him out. Like, if the Panthers are getting that many dirty goals in the kitchen, they really need to step up and help him out this series more than they have been prior to the last couple games of the Dallas series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I like that we got the rematch. I'm actually pretty stoked about that. I did have Dallas winning that last series, but it's kind of like a nice little reward here after getting the Dallas pick wrong. Is, hey, we get to watch the rematch. At least it's not Carolina Edmonton. That I would not have been a fan of.
Edmonton has like we were talking about, like a potent scoring just group of players. Would this series, would you say it comes down to the whole back end of Edmonton?
Yeah, it's going to be
the defense and Skinner, because the
It
offense,
is.
they might have some off games, but with what you have they're going to be getting you goals.
You're getting something out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, even last season, McDavid had 11 points in the finals in 7 games, right? He was a stud. I think he actually led both teams in scoring in the finals, and they lost in 7 games. So you're going to get that from McDavid.
Yeah.
I would say the only other key is can Draisaitl keep rolling? If he gets shut down like he did in the playoffs last season against the Panthers, they're going to be in trouble because they can't just rely on McDavid. So, but you're right. It's going to be all about the defense for the Oilers and their goaltending, and then I think the penalty kill. Because the power play is going to roll. It's the same thing with the offense. You're going to get the offense from McDavid. The power play is going to be good. Can the penalty kill step it up and at least get to 75%? 1 out of every 4 goals or 1 out of every 4 power plays, there's a goal scored. Versus right now 1 out of every 3. You're almost guaranteed to have 3 penalties in a game.
Yeah.
And you just, like I said, that could be the difference between winning the series and losing the series.
Yeah.
So we'll see. What do you think about the Oilers overall? Do you think they have a chance here?
Team Canada, baby.
You're going Oilers?
I know you can't bring yourself to cheer for the Oilers, but Canada needs a cup.
Yeah, not as a Canucks fan. I cannot cheer for the Oilers.
Honestly, if I was placing a paycheck on it, I think my gut feeling would tell me Panthers. Mm-hmm. But solely for nationalistic purposes, who I got to cheer for.
Yeah, well,
I wish I was cheering for the Leafs, but just had to drop out.
I could definitely not bring myself to do that. I did look up the odd set earlier on Bet365. What did I have it at here? I'm just trying to scan through.
What was it, minus 130, you said?
Yeah, it was minus 130 for the Oilers. So they are the betting favorite right now. So you're going to get slightly better odds with Florida. They're at a plus 130. So it's not a big swing. But, it's something. Okay, let's move on to the Florida Panthers, and then we'll do kind of like a final recap and thoughts and predictions, which I think are already kind of pretty obvious. And then do you have a little bit of football you want to talk after that?
No, I think I'm pretty good on football. We'll save it for next week.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so Florida Panthers, obviously they beat the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. Beat Toronto as well, and they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they haven't had a horribly easy path, but I wouldn't say they've had a difficult path. If you were to look at both the teams, I think the Oilers have played they've played the harder teams. If you were to look at the Panthers versus, the Oilers, they played LA, Vegas, and Dallas. I would almost consider that path that the Oilers took maybe quite possibly the hardest path out of any team could have possibly had. Mm-hmm. The only exception I would have said is maybe if Dallas got through Edmonton, I would have said Dallas had the harder path.
Yeah,
playing the fact that they beat the Jets and the Avalanche.
Yeah.
But so we'll see if that plays a factor, but Toronto's not a very physical team. The Hurricanes weren't very physical with the Panthers either. Tampa Bay was. That was a very vicious series, that first series against Tampa Bay, but that's over a month ago now.
Yeah. So
the Panthers have had plenty of time to rest and recover.
And how much less ice time have they had recently? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They're just, they're cruising right now. So we'll see. The couple players I want to touch on here is Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett is tied for team lead in scoring in the conference finals. He had 7 points in 5 games. He also had 18 penalty minutes. And he's another type of Corey Perry, Brad Marchand type of player, kind of a harasser, likes to mix it up, and
you can find him in front of the net.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find him in front of the net, going to those dirty areas, causing a problem. So we'll see how effective he can be against the Oilers.
Out of all of the guys you have written down, you could apply that to every single one.
Almost, yeah. Well, yeah, I got Sasha Barkov next, who's probably the cleanest player of those guys. He's, more of a defensive Selke type player, and in fact, I believe he did just win the Selke this year. The voting just came through. I think it was today or yesterday. And so he's actually won the Selke. But the other two players I got, we'll talk about them in a second, is Matthew Tkachuk and Brad Marchand. So, they're filled with pests, this team. They're going to be a problem for the Oilers. And can the Oilers manage themselves? That's going to be the question.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking earlier. Like the Oilers defense, in a weird way, it's kind of one of the last groups you'd think about in this series, but I feel like it might come down to how does the Oilers defense just manage all these fucking guys just in the corners, chasing them down to kill them, getting in front of the net, hack to the back of the knee.
They're just going to try and grind them down into sand.
Totally.
Just, it's going to be every forecheck is going to be relentless. And I think there was a mic'd up session, or a mic picked up their coach Paul Maurice in the last series. It might have been Toronto, but I think it was against the Hurricanes. And he said something like, "Hit them so they can't play Game 7 or something like that." He's like, just like he wanted them to just punish the Hurricanes.
Fuck.
And so it's like,
taken after Sean Payton.
That's what. Yeah, exactly, right?
Fuck.
Is there going to have to be an investigation here? No, but that's kind of his game plan. Is he wants his players to go out and expect to play 7 games, and when they get to that 7th game, it's easy mode because they've been absolutely crushing everybody on the ice that they can see.
Yeah.
So it'll be a big surprise to me if Florida doesn't implement that physical game. I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying. They're going to do that.
Oh, totally. And over the last week or 5 days or however long they've had to sit there and think about it, they've just been preparing themselves.
Pumping themselves up, getting ready to do it.
Oh, totally. And the Oilers, they're pumping themselves and telling them, "I ain't no bitch. I can't take it."
Right.
That's totally the mindset they got to have going into the series.
They cannot shy away from it.
Like you were saying, they're obviously a very skill-based team, quite opposite build of the Panthers, but any type of grittiness they really got to dig deep and find that now.
Yeah, Darnell Nurse is going to have his biggest series of his career, I think, because he is kind of like supposed to be that like razor blade on the back end, and at times he does it, and other times you can just see he doesn't kind of have the foot speed to like deal with it.
Yeah.
In fact, he gets punished a lot, so we'll see. Like in front of the net, I'm taking Darnell Nurse. He's a great piece to have in front of the net, and he's going to be key. But like players like Brad Marchand, they don't shy away from bigger players. Like Brad Marchand is going to get in there. You're going to see Matthew Tkachuk. He's going to be all over the ice. In fact, I can't wait to see Matthew Tkachuk versus Evander Kane. Those two are going to be jawing at each other the whole time. So
totally,
that should be exciting as well.
How many fights in this series? Over 3.5.
Over 3.5. Well, you don't see fights a lot in the playoffs. So a fight, would you consider a fight? It has to be a 5-minute major?
Has to be going to the box for a minute.
I'm going to say under.
Under?
Yeah. I don't think there will be a fight in this series.
Really?
Yeah. It's not something you see a lot in the playoffs because every game is so important.
Yeah.
And it's also a situation where like you can't have your good players sitting 5 minutes in the box.
Yeah.
Now, after the whistle stuff,
lots of that.
We're going to see a ton of it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And like that's actually one of the best things about this series is the fact that these two teams have a history. They played last year.
Yeah.
They went to 7 games. Florida Panthers were up 3-0. Edmonton almost completes the reverse sweep, and then they choke. So I think there's some bad blood there.
Oh, totally. You think they'll force another Game 7? I'm hoping so, just for the sake of hockey.
I think this series will go to 7 games.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive it will. If I was to put money on it, I would pick 7 games.
You think so?
Yeah.
And Florida?
I've got Florida in this rematch, but again, like I said earlier, I can see the Oilers. I can see a path for them to win the Stanley Cup. Like, if the Oilers win this, like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I'm taking Florida because they have the experience. They won it last year. They know what it's like to lose one. So do the Oilers, but the Panthers, they've already beaten this team, and yeah, the Oilers are slightly different, and the Panthers are slightly different. But Florida's beaten them before. So, like, unless Edmonton does something drastically different, which they don't do. They play the same game that they played last year, the same game that they played the year before that. It's based around McDavid and Draisaitl and power plays, right? Like, that's why their power play is so effective.
Yeah.
So, like, Florida's done this before in the past. That's why I'm taking them in 7 games. But I could see the Oilers, winning this one.
What's worst case scenario? Draisaitl and McDavid go cold, or Skinner just lays tons of eggs?
I think if Skinner lays tons of eggs,
They can't keep up to it.
No, I don't think so, because I think if McDavid and Draisaitl, I mean, the odds of them both going cold are probably almost nothing.
Yeah.
But so one of them's probably going to play decently, and then, like I said earlier, their depth has looked good this year. So if they can keep the depth rolling, they can still win. But if Skinner goes out and like gives up 5 goals in 3 games,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, just loses them 3 games. The Panthers only need to win then 1 game where they score, they win 2-1 or 3-2, something like that. So, I mean, we'll see. I like I said, I think both teams could win this, which is kind of like a cop-out, but if I had to pick a team, I'm taking the Panthers.
Yeah, fair enough. Money talks. I also see down in your notes you got Marchand with plus 11.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he's got 14 points in 17 games on the third line.
That's crazy.
And he's a plus 11. So, and he also leads the team in penalty minutes with 46.
Does he?
Yeah.
In the playoffs?
Yeah, in the playoffs.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been instrumental for them, and like him and Seth Jones have been just massive pickups for them.
Yeah.
I don't really see Bobrovsky having a bad series. Just to kind of transition to the next thing, which on the notes here is Bobrovsky. He's currently, like I said, my choice for the Conn Smythe. 12 wins, 5 losses. What are his numbers? 912 save percentage, which is crazy. And he's got 3 shutouts in 17 games.
Damn.
So if like you convert that to regular season numbers, he almost has 12 shutouts if he was to play like 65 games.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's having a crazy postseason. Yeah, who do you think's going to win the Conn Smythe? MVP. If you had to pick one from each team, let's say.
If the Oilers win it, it's going to be McDavid. If the Panthers win it, probably Bob.
Yeah, I think as well.
Yeah, and Bob necessarily, I know, just with how he's played the entire playoffs, that doesn't leave the voters' mind. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. He would, and again, like he could have an average finals, and he's probably still their best, like their Conn Smythe winner. Because if you look at like their scoring, it's pretty even. They've got like, I think Barkov has 17 points in whatever it is, 16 games or something they've played. But it's not like McDavid, who's like I think he's at 27 points or something like that. Like McDavid would obviously be the choice on the other side.
Yeah. No, I think those are probably the 2 safe picks for the Conn Smythe.
Dark horse? Would you pick one player out of there who's like, if neither of those 2 win it?
You know what? The fucking pace Marchand's going.
Marchand? Could be. Yeah, it could be Marchand.
Oilers wise, I'm gonna say maybe not the biggest dark horse, but Nurse.
Yeah. What about Skinner?
Skinner. Yeah, that'd be a surprise. That'd be a huge dark horse.
If he has a crazy finals.
If he gets 2 shutouts and gets only 2 goals allowed in another 2 games.
Yeah.
That'd be the craziest stat line that no one expected.
That would probably, honestly, if Stuart Skinner goes out and has a playoff or like a finals like that, that would be the biggest surprise, but also be, he would then become their goalie of the future.
Yeah.
Like I don't know when his contract is up. I think it's not this year, but next.
Yeah.
So they'd have to go re-sign him. His value would shoot through the roof. If he loses this series, he might just be like on another like average deal, like I don't know, $4 million or whatever he's at.
Yeah. 2-3 year stopgap type of career.
That's a lot of pressure.
Oh fuck yeah, dude.
That's a ton of pressure right there. So
he better be chilling the fuck out right now.
Yeah, let's see what his contract is right now.
Yeah, Stanley Cup goalie, that'll be a couple bucks.
Yeah, so he's $2.6 million cap hit right now, and he's got 1 year left.
2.6 mil. That's a fucking, as much as you can say about Skinner, that's a pretty good deal for what you're getting.
Yeah, right? It's not bad. Like, in comparison to Bobrovsky, who's one of the higher paid goalies in the league.
He's at over 10, right?
He's at 10, and he's got 1 year left on his deal as well.
So even looking at the recent goalie contracts and with the cap going up, how they're going to go up, they might have got Bob at a good deal in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy because I remember when they signed that contract, it was like people thought it was the worst contract in the league. And there was a point actually in time where they had Spencer Knight, who I think he was like in the player assistance program or he's playing in the AHL now. I can't remember which it is, but he just did not work out. But at the time, he was good.
Yeah.
And then he kind of just fell off, and like people were like, "Oh shit!"
So
I guess.
Bob wasn't even necessarily their number one.
Correct. There was a goalie controversy there for a while.
Damn.
And that happened, and then all of a sudden Bobrovsky just like turned it around, and then he almost won them the cup 2 years ago, won it last year, and is now obviously putting himself in a position to maybe possibly be the MVP. So I mean, you take him at 10 mil all day. Right?
Totally.
So, but 2.6 mil for Skinner's not bad. If he wins a cup here, he could be worth, what do you think, like 8, 7.5, something like that?
Yeah, definitely getting towards double digits. I don't think just because of his reputation, I don't think he'll ever hit double digits.
No,
but
I think so as well. Yeah,
but 7-8 mil. Yeah, the Oilers are getting like a fucking $5 million discount on him right now.
and if he loses this finals and fucking just puts out a bunch of eggs,
I think
3 mil, 3.5, like maybe a slight raise.
He's showing enough where he'll definitely get a couple year contract, 3 or 4 mil. Yeah. But no, I don't think anyone will give him crazy money. But he has shown enough to earn more than 2.4. That's
For
a
sure.
huge surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, so and he's still like relatively young. He's 27.
Yeah.
And I think Bobrovsky is like 37 or 38.
Gotcha.
So, Bobrovsky's coming up to like and he's going to sign maybe another 2-year deal, 3-year deal at the most.
Yeah.
I mean, he might even win a cup and then just retire after next season.
Yeah.
You win 2 cups out of 3 years, play your last season out, and boom, you're done.
Sorry, is this the last year of his contract?
Next season.
Next
25,
season.
26, yeah.
Gotcha.
He's coming up on it, so we'll see. Yeah, predictions.
Predictions.
You got the Oilers.
I've got the Oilers. I'm going Oilers in 7. You're going Panthers in 7. Do we want to cook up a little parlay to end it?
Yeah, might as well.
All right.
Game 1?
Game 1. Money line?
Yeah, what is it?
130 Oilers, minus 130. Panthers, plus 110.
Okay. What's the over-under? 6?
6. I'm going to...
I would take the over.
You're going to take the over?
What do you think? You're thinking under?
I'm thinking... It's one of those games I feel like it's either going to smash the over or be 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with the over. And then I'm going to pick the Oilers for the money line.
What do you got? What's the what are the odds on that?
We're
Plus
going
230 or something?
Yeah, we're going $10 into $32 plus 224.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Let's we'll have to see how it pans out, people. Wish us luck, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. All right, next week we'll do a little NFL talk.
Totally. We'll get some I'll get some hot seats ready with all these fucking coaches and GMs getting fired with the Stanley Cup playoffs wrapping up. Maybe we can do a little hot seat talk.
I think I got an update too on Desmond Watson. We can talk about next week.
Oh,
the 449-pound nose
weight loss
tackle.
update?
Yeah, I think so.
God damn, let's go.
All right, that'll do it for episode 4 of Couchside Sports. As always, I'm Matt Parnell. He's been Lucas Fanslow, and that's been another episode. Thank you.